All right, enough of that waiting. Screw the music. Let's get it pumping. Man, it is the draft preview show. Eric and I are extremely happy to get into this tonight and get it rolling. Man, we are just a couple of days away from the biggest event before the Super Bowl, right? So the biggest event after the Super Bowl is typically free agency. And now we're getting into what is the biggest event for me, which is the draft. This is the best part of the season. Out of any part of the season, this is the best part of the season until you're actually watching football on Sundays. There's so much information. My mind is so numb. I've been doing so much work behind the scenes, trying to get things ready. And I think that I have paralysis by analysis right now. I'm dead serious. Like I don't even know which direction this draft is going in. And I know that's hard for me to say because I've spent so much time on it, but this is a weird draft. And it's a weird draft because there's not a whole lot of blue chippers in it. That's the big thing. But let me get Eric in here before I forget. Eric, there you are.
The forgotten man.
No, I was just going to get off on a tangent, and I probably wouldn't have shut up for 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's how I roll. So anyway, man, this is your first real time doing this. So Eric's really never done the mock drafts. He's really never gotten that deep into it before. So I guess, Eric, for you, like, what have you learned so far?
Well, it's different when you put the shoe on the other foot and you have to figure it out yourself. And you have to go with what limited information you do have about these guys, because we have very, very, I don't care if you're Daniel Jeremiah, you have limited information. You don't have the information that these teams have. They have all the information. We don't. They have the scouts that sat there all season long watching these players. And I watched an interview with the lead scout, the head of scouting for the Lions, and he was talking about how they learn about a lot of players, how they act after a bad play. Like, let's say the quarterback throws an interception. Does he go to the sideline and throw his helmet and throw his iPad, into the stands, or does he take his iPad and start looking at it and bring the guys around and say, okay, come on. Let's do this. Let's do this. How does the guy interact when something bad happens? And what does he do when something good happens? And that's all the kind of information that they have that we don't. So trying to do this like a serious mock draft for the first time, 7 rounds for the Lions, very difficult decisions to make. If you make the wrong decision, you're setting the team back for the next 4 or 5 years just by picking the wrong person in the first round.
It's at least setting you back for a couple of seasons. I'm glad you mentioned a few of those things there. I like who was it? Seth? Was it Hegseth that you listened to? One of the head scouts.
He was with Tim Twentyman.
Yeah, it's Hegseth, I believe. So I found that very interesting. Where he says if you watch the tape, right, you can't really see everything that's behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Right. Whereas when you're in the crowd and you're focusing on something, maybe you have your monocle, bifocals, whatever you're using, or to make sure that you can follow these players around and see what they're doing. Getting an idea of, to that exact point, is this guy going to take his helmet off? Yeah, he might be upset, might be pissed, but is he going to go sit down and try to figure out what he did wrong and try to correct it? Or is he going to get all pissed off, rant, rave, jump up and down, make a scene, cause commotion, and now you're pulling other guys into that tornado, right? And that tornado just starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and before you know it, the whole team is a mess because of one person spun it out of control. And I'm not going to liken that to Jamo, but I'll just say for bits and pieces of the last few seasons, you've kind of had a Jamo tornado at times, and that's why I think his name is popped up quite a bit over the last few days, week, for trade bait. And to kind of segue, I guess, the tornado is now Jamo, right? Is Jamo going to get traded? Is this, a reality? I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, I think I'm on the hard no stance. It's not happening. At least right now, if some team wants to way overpay for Jamo, then I would do it in a heartbeat. But that's just me, the business side. That's not me, the fan side. The fan side says, nope, don't want him to go anywhere. The business side says, yeah, absolutely. Give me. What can you give me for him? But that just doesn't create a good dynamic sometimes in the locker room. But you never know. You might have some of your guys, that are leaders on that team going up to the GM and saying, hey, look, have you thought about trading Jamo? You never know. You never know what kind of conversations they're having within the leadership that says this is going to become a problem, or it is becoming a problem, or these are the things that he's been doing in the offseason. Maybe we don't agree so much with some of the things he is doing. I'm not saying he's doing anything. Just hypotheticals, what ifs, right? We don't know. To your point, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you today, like opening, I was off my phone for a couple hours because I'm taking everything out of my shop, me and the wife, and we're completely cleaning everything and putting everything back in and rearranging and just getting spring cleaning done for the year for my YOOPERLITES shop. And I didn't have my phone on for a couple hours. So this afternoon I get on and I look at Facebook, and every other post for 100 posts is something new about Jamo getting traded and teams wanting Jamo, and don't be surprised if we trade Jamo, and the Lions are willing to move off of Jamo, and all this made up stuff. And some of it's fake, some of it's real, but to me, I wouldn't be sad if we traded him. I would be disappointed because I want to see what his full potential is. We have not seen this kid's full potential yet. He is very untapped. We didn't get to see all of a full season yet. We haven't seen a 17 game season yet out of Jamo. We got to see 15 games last year, and he hit 1,000 yards. So to me, I want to see his full potential. I want to see what this kid can do. I want to see him light the league on fire. And I believe he's got all the ability to do it.
I agree that he has the ability, and the rationale is to Randy P's point, the Lions have invested a lot of time, money, and energy in this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you want to see it through. Okay. I get it. Let me throw this at you though. What if that ceiling, just finally pops, right? And it's just a, big waterfall of a mess, and he does something stupid, or maybe he doesn't do anything stupid at all. What if it just doesn't work out? What if he isn't, what we thought he was? We've seen glimpses of his talent, right? I don't think there's any denying that.
Yep.
But is he a guy that can lead a team, or is he always going to be that number 2, number 3 option that just has good wheels? There's a big difference there. And that's kind of like this draft. Like in this draft, you have a lot of really good football players, and you have some guys that do some really incredible things, different than others. And you have a lot of guys that are just kind of in this chunk of like 30 players between that 26, and 50, 56 area. There's like 30 players in there that are just starters. That's just what they are. They're just starters. They're high floor, ready to go, going to start, in year one. They're going to find a position. As long as they're healthy, they're going to find a position on the starting squad. And that's a good problem to have in this draft. But see, what Jamo's supposed to be was a blue chipper. Jamo was a top 12 pick in the NFL draft. He was one of probably 17 first-round grades that year. And he was supposed to be someone that could eventually lead a team. I don't see him being able to lead a team. I see him being able to lead statistically, potentially, yes, but not as a leader. You know what I'm saying? Not as, like, you can't latch on to him to go lead the wide receiver room. You need that Amon-Ra St. Brown, or you need, somebody else to help lead that room. And so I think he's always going to be the number 2 or number 3 in some rosters. So that's where, you've invested a lot, but is he really worth paying that kind of money to when he can't lead a room, potentially? That's the biggest question I think they're going to have to answer on Jamo. But more importantly, I don't think they're going to trade him. You want to know why?
Why?
I'm glad you asked, Eric. I'm so glad you asked. Here's
For
why.
Hey, I'm sorry, but if the Saints gave me number 9, see ya, Jamo. I'm sorry. That's too much. I mean, we drafted him at 12.
Okay, but there's some context with this. If the Saints gave us number 9 and we gave them Jamo, obviously we're giving them something with it, right? We're not just getting Jamo and number 9. It would be like we're giving Jamo probably a 3rd round pick, and we'd end up with number 9.
No strings attached. Otherwise, no deal.
So you got to think about it that way. I couldn't type that all in there. But yeah, if we ended up with a 9th pick overall and we still had 28, I mean, yeah, that would be an incredible haul because you'd get a blue chipper. Or not a blue chipper. You'd get a 1st round grade. Let me start with that. And then I'm going to come back to the reason why I don't see us trading Jamo. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but I just don't think it does. So I was asked, how many grades do I have this year? And initially the answer was like 14. And I've got this 15th now that's just kind of hanging in there. So let me throw out my 1st round grades. Okay, I've got Travis Hunter. I don't think that's a surprise. Yep. Abdul Carter. That's not a surprise. Ashton Gienti. Mason Graham. Jelon Walker. Matthew Golden. Luther Burden. Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland. Armand Membu. This one was really hard for me to put as a 1st round grade because I don't see him as a tackle at the next level. But I do see him as one of the best guards potentially at the next level, and that's Will Campbell. Kelvin Banks. Shamar Stewart. Yep, I know he's teetering. Like, he's that 15th. Malachi Starks and Michael Williams. And he's kind of right in that boat with Shamar Stewart. And I know you're probably asking me, what about Nick Scorton? I did not have a 1st round grade on Nick Scorton, even though I think he's going to end up being an extremely good football player. Doesn't mean he's not a 1st round draft pick. He just may not be a 1st round grade. There's a big difference there. To explain the difference, I think, Shamar is high ceiling, has a lot to improve. He'll be great in the run game. Absolutely. I think that Shamar is going to be a run stuffer, and that'll be immediate, right? I think his pass rush, is complicated, where he's got too much going on. He needs to simplify it. Nick, I think, is ready to go day one. Like, day one, he's going to be, in the backfield making plays. I think he has a lower ceiling because I think he's a little bit more ready to play now. So I think his floor is higher than what his ceiling is, if that makes sense. So maybe in year 2 or 3, probably 3, what you're getting out of Nick is what you're going to get. Now, is that a bad thing? No. Does that mean that, you're only getting 5, 6, 7 sacks a year out of him? Probably. As long as he's shutting down the run and doing his job and able to, be that guy on the other side, there's nothing wrong with that. So it really depends on which type of defense he goes to. Now, if Nick goes to a defense where he's kind of the premier, well, then I think his ceiling is going to be a little bit higher. So I think it's situationally dependent on which defense he goes to, which team he goes to. If he goes to a team that has an Aiden, his ceiling's going to be artificially shorter because he's not going to be asked to do as much. But if he goes to a team where there is no Aiden, there is no Max, there is no, Myles Garrett, well, then he's going to be asked to do a lot more. And I think that's where you're going to see Nick really grow. But that's kind of why these guys like Shamar, his athletic gifts are just too great to not give him a 1st round grade. And I think that, with all of his other intangibles, I think he's going to be great. And Michael Williams, man, teetering on this one, but he made the cut. So those are my 15 1st round grades. I added one more. I added the 15th after going through this. I did another exercise, which we'll get into in a little bit, but I did a top 36. And then I've also outlined the top tackles and the top guards. And the reason why I did that is my analytics sheet that I put together. Eric, you've seen it. We were going through it the other day too.
Yep.
It's seriously almost like a RAS. It's similar to a RAS because you're kind of getting these color-coded boxes that, are a tribute to how good they are, how elite they are in certain areas, whether it's a measurement or an agility, testing score. So it's similar to a RAS, but I think it goes a little bit deeper. And that's kind of what I work off now for the last couple of years, and I've done pretty well hitting on a few things. I'll be honest, this has been the hardest draft so far. And Jeremiah said it best the other day. He's like, we spend all this time, we do all these things. We probably aren't going to get any of them right.
Yep.
And that's what happens every year. Like, these guys waste all this time. They've consumed all this content, and you may get a few right. And then the rest, good luck. And that's because you just never know what these teams are thinking, man. You never know. So back to Jamo. Why do I feel like the Lions won't trade? Well, let's just start with this. Wide receiver prospects that the Lions brought in. They brought in 9 wide receiver prospects total. And I compiled a list, which Eric has seen. I took all of the combine, interviews, the top 30 visits, the Hula Bowl, the Reese's Bowl, the Shrine Game, virtual meetings, all of it, and combined it all on one sheet. 2 different sheets, offense, defense, but I put them all in one, and then I broke them all down, and then I ranked them all. So where they're going to get taken potentially in this draft, and then it kind of gives me an idea of what the Lions are looking for. And what I see here is this. If the Lions are going to grab a receiver, it's probably going to come in the 4th round or later. That's just what I see. Unless they get lucky and Matthew Golden slips to them, which Matthew Golden may be available at 28. I don't see them taking a receiver that would push Jamo. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So why would you trade him away if you're not going to bring somebody in that is really going to push Jamo? Now, Matthew Golden ran a blazing 4.29, and the guy's got speed. It's just as fast as Jamo. I mean, they're right in the same box. So I think that Jamo's twitch is a little bit different, and I think that he gets into a higher gear at a little bit different of a rate, but Matthew Golden's blazing fast. And if the Lions have an opportunity to get him, I think that then if they locked him up in the 1st round, Jamo may be gone. He could be gone by the 2nd round. Or maybe not. Or maybe now we just have some really good wide receivers. So I would say that I'm 70-30, 70 on the out that the Lions would trade Jamo, just simply because of what I'm looking at here. But you know what that doesn't say, Eric?
What's that?
It doesn't say all of the players that they didn't report. We don't know who they didn't report. We don't know who they talked to, and that we just didn't find out about it. We have no clue. So nobody has a clue. If they did, they would have written it down. They would have published it, because that would be gold for clicks. So where do you want to start on your sheet?
Hey, the Detroit Lions just upgraded their locker room. On their Twitter, they put out a video. It's pretty cool, actually. Very cool. So my sheet, let's see here. Well, you want to start with my 7-round mock of who we took with the Lions?
Hold on. Before we do that, I got one quick question. So we got Gaviscon Khan in the house. Says that James Pierce got his attention. I'd be happy with him or Shamar Stewart. So I'd be interested to know why James got your attention today. What did I miss?
I think everybody liked him because of his workout at the combine.
Well, yeah, of course, but then there's all this stuff that's going on off the field, behind the scenes that's not so good.
Yep.
And if he's uncoachable, he's not a Dan Campbell guy. Like, it's just won't happen. He wouldn't be an Aaron Glenn guy either. Let's just be real. Could probably be a Ben Johnson guy, because I feel like Ben Johnson don't care, but we'll see. Yeah, if you want to go through your 7-round mock, and who you think that the Lions, are going to grab, we can do that.
Okay. So I got a little something I wrote afterward, but I'd like to read it first to give you some context of what I did. Okay. So I put less emphasis on the O-line than many other people, instead focusing on building the trenches while also focusing mostly on defense. The Detroit Lions have had a top 5 to 19 defense for 3 years now, and I feel the focus needs to be more on defense, where the Lions had 16 defensive players land on the injured reserve last season. I do not see Brad Holmes being caught without defensive firepower at the edge and defensive tackle positions that the Lions will need to get past any injuries that may occur in 2025. I think he just wants volume and numbers, strength and numbers. Now you may ask why I did not acquire a linebacker or a cornerback. Well, I believe the Lions can always address these positions with UDFAs after the draft, as both are deeper positions on the defense. And also, I know that Brad and his staff put an emphasis on drafting players that they have had in for top 30 visits or met with in person at the combine or at the Senior Bowl. So while every one of my picks may be completely wrong, I do believe that Brad has a plan every year in the draft going in, and he sticks to that plan. I did not have any trades in my mock, and Brad does 1 to 4 trades every year, and he has made trades in every round of the draft. So he's done one in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. And some years, let's see, although he has done multiple move ups in the 1st round for Jamo and Arnold, and even a trade back from 6 to 12 in the 1st to get Gibbs. So don't be surprised if Brad makes moves up or down in the 1st round. And so to tell you my first guy off my board, I took Nick.
Hold on.
Yep.
So
Sure.
when you started doing this,
Yep.
you said you did no trades.
No trades.
Okay, what did you use for valuable information to kind of, since this was your first time, did you just follow PFF and what it kind of gave you, and you went with your heart, or what did you do?
Well, a little bit of everything. So I saw what was left to me. I was looking at the guys that went ahead of me, and I ranked the positions of need like this. Number 1, edge. Number 2, defensive tackle. Number 3, O-line guard. Number 4, wide receiver. Number 5, linebacker, then quarterback, safety, tight end, and center, in that order. So if somebody fell to me, that was the order I was going to try to take someone first. And if I'm doubling them up, I'm only going to double up on one position. That's going to be the edge position. Like last year, he doubled down on corner, and I think that worked beautifully. So this year, he doesn't have to worry about having to draft a cornerback, but if one falls to him, he can take one.
So to your point on that, because I think that's an interesting concept that I think a lot of fans kind of missed, because Ennis Rakestraw did not get on the field, right? He didn't show us who he is and what is he going to be. And I think a lot of us understand that back in the old days, it was, corners take 2 to 3 years to develop. And I think that was kind of an excuse, because a lot of corners just never amounted to what they were supposed to be. Jeff Okudah being one of them. Wasn't just a Lions excuse. I think that it was an excuse that was commonly used throughout the NFL, that corners took a little bit, and they do. It's a hard position. I mean, it's one of the hardest positions on the field. And so, yeah, their first year is feet to the fire, and they're going to learn a lot. Year 2, in that game, really slows down for them, that's when you're going to see that huge jump in their gameplay. So I think what Brad did was smart, because we got one out of the two that was able to play a full year for the most part, in Arnold. Rakestraw didn't. So Rakestraw's still kind of coming in as a rookie because he didn't get all that game time. And it was just smart that the way he did it, not just taking one, but taking two, because God forbid one gets hurt. Well, then there goes that year for that corner. At least you have one of the other ones that is developing during that time.
And that's exactly what happened with Rakestraw. He was supposed to be the starter week 2 against Tampa Bay. And in pregame warmups, he tore his some muscle in his leg, thigh muscle or something, hamstring. That's
hamstring,
what it was.
Yeah,
he did his hamstring in the in pregame warmups. Nobody sees that coming. And then he was off for 4 or 5 weeks before he finally came back, and by that time he had already lost his spot.
Right. All right. Yeah. So for me, it's I'm glad that he did what he did, and I don't think that Brad is afraid to make the moves that maybe are a little bit less popular, because he doesn't give a crap what we think. He cares less.
Exactly. He's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, we're all going to have that drop in the jaw moment where we're all with our eyes like big giant dishes. It's going to happen. There's going to be some surprises. The first one or two might be okay, but then you get a little further down, you're going to be like, oh, you're going to see some trade or something happen that you didn't see coming.
Man, I'm still struggling with this Excel.
Uh-oh.
I thought I had it fixed, and it's not. I don't know what is going on, dude. I've never seen anything like this before, but what a great time to have it happen right before we have to go to Green Bay and I need all these sheets. Oh my God, this is not good. All my work is just jacked. Okay, so let's walk, before we get into your 7-round mock, I want to walk through a couple of things first. So defensive lineman. So you didn't really know any of this or see any of this before you did your 7-round mock.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive lineman. Does anybody know out there how many defensive linemen the Lions brought in? Do you think the defensive line is an extremely, do you think it's extremely high on Brad's list going into the draft? And for me, the answer is yes. In the offseason, I said that there was 2 things that were going to happen for sure: edge and defensive tackle. Last year, I said it was going to be corner in free agency and corner in the draft, among other positions. But it was this year defensive line and edge because of the roster roulette theory. Aiden is going to get his extension at some point. You need to kind of backfill and be ready, so you have an up-and-comer on a low cap, contract. And that way you can afford to pay Aiden, and you have someone that could be really good. He could be better than Aiden. You don't know yet. And hopefully he is. Like, you want him to be. Like, it's not a bad thing if he is. You want that player to be better, because then that obviously helps your team. It's not Aiden's team. It's the team's team, right? So 17 defensive linemen is who the Lions brought in or visited with in the offseason here before the draft. 17. And the next closest on the list for visits. Oh my God, this is just nuts. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The next closest number, the next positional group. Remember when I said a couple months ago, I said, don't be surprised if the Lions get a tight end? They brought in 13 tight ends.
Holy moly.
And that was the second largest volume of players at a position that they have interviewed. Now, in Sam Laporta's defense, the majority of these guys are either 7th round priority free agents or UDFAs. About half of them are UDFA guys. You might get a couple that bounce up, might be a couple of wasted 7th round picks that, someone throws a stab at. But the one that I did like that they really, there's a couple in here I really like, but Fannin. So Fannin jumped out at me during Reese, I think it was Reese's Bowl. And we were talking about him that day when we were live watching the games. I really liked his work. and he's the number one overall tight end on the Lions list if you were to rank them by where they're supposed to be taken in the draft. And so then the third biggest position that the Lions looked at this offseason is the edge position. They brought in 11 edge defenders to take a look at this year. I apologize. I screwed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So linebacker was second, tight end was third, edge was fourth. So linebacker was the other position that I said the Lions would be looking at this year. And so far, that's it. Those four positions, it was defensive line, edge, linebacker, tight end. And those are the four strongest positions as far as guys that they've met with. The crazy part is they still brought in a lot of corners, too. They brought in about 11, excuse me. They brought in 11 corners. They brought in 8 safeties, 10 offensive linemen, 10 wide receivers, half a dozen running backs, and 4 quarterbacks, one being Jalen Milroe, which is the guy that I've been high on this entire time. If he ends up in the second round, the Lions might just pull the trigger, you know? Who knows? All right, so now that we've said that, based on the information that you have and the information that the Lions have now, who was your number one pick and why?
Well, from watching the combine, I fell in love with a couple of guys, and I had to make a pick between the two. Okay, so my first round pick at number 28, no trades, was Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. Now, at that time, Jihad Campbell, Shamar Stewart, and Gray Zabel were all still on the board, and I did not take them. And the reason I didn't do Shamar Stewart was because I think Nick Scorton is more pro ready to throw him to the wolves.
I would agree. I would wholeheartedly agree with that he's ready to go now.
Ready to go now. And that's why I chose him. I want now. I don't want project. I want now. If we're going to do a project, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. I don't want any projects high in the draft this year. If I'm the GM, I want someone to come in and help me win the Super Bowl.
I don't think that Shamar is a project per se. I mean, he needs some, he needs some little bit of development in some areas, but I think I think that they all do. He's less, put it this way, he's less of a, he's not a project, but I don't think he is as pro ready as what Nick Scorton is. See, when I judge, and I like the pick, obviously, but when I judge or evaluate, I hate the word judge. When I evaluate Nick from the Purdue tape. And I take that body of work and I look at it and I say, you let this guy off the leash, this is what he can do. He can lead the Big Ten in sacks, pressures, he can get after the quarterback. And then you judge him, or evaluate him, at Texas A&M, and you say, this is what Nick can do in a very structured, unselfish defense, which is contain the run, do his damn job, and help out other guys around him. When you blend those two athletes together, you have a very well-oiled machine. And it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
So, so Brent Lighton, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Danielle Hunter had no production. None. And I think that we forget that Shamar Stewart led the league in pressures, right? And TFLs. We had a ton of TFLs. So we have to look at all of the stats because they all matter, not just one. And if we're going to compare and contrast kind of what these players do, I think we have to understand what their defense is. And that defense was an unselfish defense. They weren't asked to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. They weren't. I don't know if you were here when we had the conversation with Nick Scorton's dad, but he explained just that, because Nick went from 10 sacks to nothing, basically, right? So I think we have to look at all sides. Shamar Stewart is not a project at all. He's just going to need a little bit of refinement, I think, in some techniques. He's going to be a run stuffer from day one. But he's not a project. Projects are like Broderick Martin. Shamar Stewart's not a Broderick Martin.
Yeah.
And whatever team Shamar Stewart goes to, I hope it's ours. He's gonna do very well. Very, very well. I think that what Eric is saying is he'd rather have a guy that's just ready to go.
Yeah.
A little bit less refinement. You know what? We don't know. We could find out that Nick needs a lot more refinement when you get him. You know, you never know. You never know. So the way I look at this for round one, you did no trades, right?
Nope, no trades.
So when I look at round one, you know, I'm kind of looking at it from a few different perspectives. And when I look at a few boards, and I've done a few mock drafts, and you kind of look at, okay, what's happening down around, you know, the 20s, the end of the 20s. And you're seeing Shamar Stewart pop up. You're seeing Connerly pop up. You're seeing Nick Scorton pop up. Trey Amos. Remember when I said Trey Amos was one of my favorite corners in this draft and he was going to break the first round? He's breaking the first round now. He was all the way back at the 50s. I said the same thing about Devon Witherspoon 2 seasons ago when he was the 12th overall corner, and I said that he was going to be number 1 overall in December. And then a few months later, in April, he was the number 1 overall cornerback taken in that draft. I see the same thing out of Trey Amos. He won't be number 1, but he might be the 3rd, maybe the 4th corner taken off the board, and he's moving his way up. Gray Zabel is moving his way down, down towards the low, or the high 20s, 27, 26. Jelon Walker is falling in this draft. And it's crazy to think that some of these football players are falling that far, especially when you look at, are they blue chippers? Are they first round grades? Okay, if Travis Hunter's a first round grade, Abdul Carter, Ashton Gianti, Mason Graham, well, Jelon Walker is definitely a first round grade. How is it that he has fallen all the way down on a lot of different boards? 25? That just doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you right now, if Jelon Walker is sitting on the board at 23 or 24, the Lions are moving up. Absolutely going to move up. They're not going to let this guy fall that far and not go take a run at him. Now, the biggest question is, does he fit the team? Does he fit the dynamic of this defense? And I think that is the hardest part to answer. Yes and no, I guess is how I would put it. You can make him, into the linebacker you want him to be. He can also rush off the end. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. So absolutely the Lions want good football players. You hear Brad Holmes talk about it all the time. And I think that if you were to grab somebody like Jelon Walker, they'll figure out how to turn him into a really good football player. But other football players that are dropping towards the Lions at 28. Donovan Ezeraku, James Pierce, which I think they'd probably run away from, Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks, Kenneth Grant, Kelvin Banks, Luther Burden, Maxwell Hairston, who's still in the second round, but kind of creeping up a little bit towards the first round. Who else? On other boards, we see Tyler Warren, Derek Harmon, Gray Zabel, Amika Egbuka, Maxwell Hairston, Kenneth Grant. Maxwell Hairston on this one got right in at 32. Josh Connerly at 35. So it's a hard question to answer what the Lions are going to do. Are they going to jump up and go after somebody because they're getting, pretty close. They're slipping pretty far, but they're getting pretty close. I think the answer is yes. But how would you evaluate what's more important on their board? Well, Kenneth Grant is probably in the, and I'll have this for sure before Thursday, but Grant is probably mocked somewhere around 25 to 27. So he's probably going to be there, right? The other one is Tyleik Williams. He's anywhere between 23 and 41. I think that Tyleik Williams is probably defensive tackle number 1. And I think that Kenneth Grant is probably number 2. And then I think Derek Harmon is probably number 3. So you're probably at 23, 24 for Tyleik. You're at, 25, 26 for Grant. And anywhere between, 28 and probably 35 for Harmon. Okay, what about the offensive side of the football? Well, Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel's right in that same area. He's in the mid-20s. So if he's there, obviously they're going to go for him. What about Matthew Golden? I mean, he's as high as top 10 on some boards. He's as low as, the end of the first round on other boards. For me, my top 36 would look like is this. Jelon Walker would be gone by 8. Golden would be gone by 9. Walter Nolan would be gone by 17. Gray Zabel would be gone by 18. Jahad Campbell would be gone by 20. Shamar Stewart by 23. Kenneth Grant by 28. So he would be right in line with the Lions at 28. Nick Scorton would be gone at 29. Michael Williams at 30. Trey Amos at 31. And somehow James Pierce squeaks into the first round at 32. And then Tyleik Williams, Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders, and Demetrius Knight round out 33 through 36. There's a log jam. There is a log jam here. So I guess the biggest question to answer is, what do they do when you have this log jam? How do you manage not losing out on all of these great football players? You have to trade back, I think, is the answer. So if you're sitting there, like if my list is correct, and you're sitting there at 28, and you have Kenneth Grant, Nick Scorton, Michael Williams, Trey Amos, not that you need another corner, but why not? James Pierce, which I'm not high on, Tyleik Williams, Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders, Demetrius Knight, all through 36. And if you can trade back to 35, then that's what you got to do. So my first pick for the Detroit Lions would be a trade back if they're faced with a situation where all of these football players are available. I didn't even get into the offensive tackles, or really the offensive guards and that. You're going to have Dylan Fairchild in the second round. You're going to have Anthony Belton, Donovan Jackson. I mean, those, and Gray Zabel, those are my top 4. Jonah, I think it's Savane. Those are my top 5 guards. Guards and left tackles and centers, because I think Gray is going to be able to do it all, and I think that Gray is going to be brought in to be a guard and a center. Those are all going to be available in the second round, just not at 60. The Lions are going to have to move up. But when I look at the rest of the guys that the Lions brought in, the only guys that they would be looking at is Jalen Milroe at the end of the first round, early the second. Harold Fannin. No running backs. Matthew Golden. And no other receiver on their list I have until the third round. Alec Iomanor is somehow slipping into the third round. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's going to be the second. Everyone else for offense is second round. So I think that it's defense in the first round is their first pick. But I'm going to take a trade back. But my first pick for the Detroit Lions with that log jam that I just outlined is going to be Tyleik Williams. That's my first pick. Defensive lineman. I think that's what they're going after. They need to fill for Aleem McNeil in a heartbeat. I would take him. I think that there is so much upside to this guy. I think he's better than Derek Harmon. I think that Darius Alexander is probably going to slip a little bit. You might be able to, do something with him later into the second round if you really wanted to double down. But I think that there's some unique ability for Tyreek Williams to be able to rush the passer as well. Matter of fact, let me read what somebody else said about him. Where is he? Now, of course, I would love to have an edge rusher, but I think the Lions are going to trade back up, and that's why in the second round you'll have another opportunity. So Williams is a compact and powerful interior defensive lineman who excels at holding the line of scrimmage. Now, like I said, he's got a lack of pass rush, but I think he has an upside on pass rush. He doesn't have a ton of production. Nose tackle's probably the better production or the projection for him. Likely a day 2 selection. He has been getting a lot of love into the first round. The thing that I would say that this does is this now takes care of DJ Reader when DJ Reader exits next year, because the Lions aren't going to be able to pay DJ Reader unless they keep him around on a cheap contract. So it fills that position. It also gives the Lions somebody to have as a backup this year in rotation while Aleem McNeil is on the mend. And we don't know. Maybe Aleem McNeil is out for the majority of the season, and we're going to need him a lot sooner rather than later. I think that you have to address the position that you have less health with, less immediate football players. That I think that's the biggest need is defensive tackle, nose tackle. I think both those positions are probably the biggest need. Best player available, I think it's got to be best value, and that's why my first choice is a trade back. My second choice is Tyreek Williams because he won't be there at 60. Anybody else that's sitting there on my big board, like Derek Harmon, TJ Sanders, well, those are pretty much the same guys. James Pierce, I'm not high on. Yes, you could go Nick Scorton, and yes, you could probably go Kenneth Grant potentially. And if Kenneth Grant was there, I would take him first. So, all right, who's number 2 for you?
All right, my second one, I'm doing the scoop and score. I'm doing doubling down. Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College. Just like last season, Brad Holmes doubles down on our biggest need.
And so where did you take him at 60?
At 60. And now I want to preface all of this. I did this on PFF on their mock draft simulator. I put everything right down the middle, like you showed me. And I did this exact same draft twice. And I was able to get all 7 of these players 2 times in a row.
Interesting. Warren King just mentioned something in here. He said Daniel Jeremiah had stated that every team he had talked to that were drafting in the bottom of the first round, 25 to 32, wanted to trade back into the top of the second round and accumulate more picks. That's incredible. I didn't hear that out of Jeremiah, but that's what I've been saying for 2 months. For 2 months, I said that that's what the Lions should do. And I hope they do. Now, it's going to suck that we sit through all this on draft night and then they trade back to day 2. But I'll tell you, man, if the Lions can somehow facilitate a trade back, as you heard me say, my first choice is trade back. My second choice is grabbing, a tackle, if at all possible. Trade back, man. You're going to have, a top 35, 36 pick. You might gain, another day 2 pick in that round, depending which team it is, or another, round 3, or you could get a next year's round 2. And then you can take all those and package them and try to move forward. If the Lions, I don't think the Lions would do this right away where they would do a double trade, where they would trade and then trade with somebody else to move up right away. But that they're going to have other trades in play. Like they've got it on the hook with these teams saying, hey, if this happens, if I pull this off, what I'm planning on doing, can I get 45 for this, this, and this? Can I get 41 for this, this, and this? And that play is it's ready to go. And the minute Brad pulls off what he's going to pull off, they're right on the phone making sure that trade happens. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if we do a trade back. The best teams, some of the best teams in the NFL ever, are the ones that facilitate the most draft picks in the first 3 rounds year after year after year. The proof is there. The best teams stack picks because they're worth so much to be able to make your team better. Or, hey, if you got to shed a bunch of cap, well, you better hope you got a bunch of draft picks to be able to refill your team. So draft picks are worth way more than keeping that $40 million a year player in a heartbeat. I would trade them all away if I had to. All right, so number 2 for you was...
Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College.
I just can't believe he was even sitting there.
2 times. So I kind of wanted to double check my homework, to make sure I just wasn't doing something wrong. But I looked around today and I found a couple of mocks that have him going 60 or lower.
Really?
So, yep.
A lot's changed over the last couple of days. So I'm looking at one right now. Darius Alexander's down at 49. Princely Umanamian's down at 50. See, the Lions are going to have an opportunity, even at pick 60, to grab that edge rusher. And if you're, what I was talking about at the beginning of the show is, you have so many first-round grades, and then you have this chunk of really good football players that are really no different than from pick 16 on. It's just they're getting paid different.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of in this same class of player. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, there's one player during the second pick at number 60 that I wanted so bad every time, and I could not get him. No matter how many of these mock drafts I did, I only did like 3 or 4, but I could never get Landon Jackson with my second pick.
Really?
That's my dream second pick at number 60 would be Landon Jackson.
So
I just love that kid.
Landon he's been moving around a little bit, but he's top 40 pick right now.
Yep.
So my second round pick would be, obviously, I would love to double down on defense too. And so I'm kind of doing mine live if you guys haven't figured it out. My real one's going to come out on Thursday. My second round pick would be doubling down on defense, taking an edge rusher to facilitate the missing piece that we might need for that front 4. And at pick 60, it's just not going to work. The Lions have to get up. They have to get up in the top 50, but I would say top 45 to be safe. But even at pick 45, yep, Landon Jackson on most boards is gone by 39. My top 50 is not.
Where would you be picking with your trade, though?
Well, I'll talk it all out.
Yeah, since you traded back.
Well, I didn't trade back. I mean, the first pick I took was Williams. My first pick, I would love to just be able to trade back with the first pick, but taking Williams, Tyreek Williams,
I forgot.
Yeah, he's not going to be there in the second round, so you've got to take him. Being able to move back forward, obviously from pick 60, this is where Brad is going to package up some later day assets, maybe a 26 asset, and move up 15 spots. It's not going to be as expensive as years past. But in the middle, at 45, you've got players like Jared Ivey, Darius Alexander, Donovan Ezeraku at 42. So I think that there's an opportunity to be able to snag, another edge rusher, in my opinion, in the middle of the 40s, where you're getting better value. Remember what I brought up the other day? It's a new term for us, BVA, not BPA. It's best value available in this draft because you've got, again, this chunk of football players that are all the same. Like, there's really not a big difference between, between this Donovan Ezeraku. He's just got amazing long arms and traits, but Darius Alexander, Jared Ivey, a little bit of a twitch difference. CJ West, I've comped him. He's an exact Aleem McNeil. That's who he looks like. I love CJ West. And the Lions love him too. Landon Jackson, they've all got their different traits, but they're the same style of football player. meaning they're going to give you about the same production. Some are going to be better against the run. Some are going to be better against the pass. Some are going to be better in coverage. That's a given. But from a football player's perspective, these guys all kind of have the same things. They're about the same value. They got like the same motor. You know what I mean? They're kind of the same football player. So you're not missing. Now, I've seen some mocks where Tyreek Williams is back at 51. And if that's the case, yeah, you're taking your edge first, or you're going to take an offensive tackle in the first round. And I'll go through some of those here in a minute too. So at pick 60, I would move forward. It's probably going to cost a day 3 in 2026 and probably a 5th round pick to move forward 15 spots. Big deal. We got 2, 3rd round picks next year. Do it. Just do it. You're going to have to do it. And with that pick, not knowing who's been taken, that's why mine's just kind of doing it live. I wouldn't mind having a Ezraku. I think he has some limitations. I think that he's got his long limbs. I like the long arms. I think he's great as an outside rusher. I think that he has had plenty of production. Not that production's everything, but you can see that he knows his way around a football. Low center of gravity. He's got active hands. I think that he'd be a great addition with the Detroit Lions. The problem is the Lions didn't meet with him. So does that mean that they're out? Possibly. They may not like his style of football. You know what I mean? They did meet with Jack Sawyer. They did meet with Nick Scorton, Mike Green, Shamar Stewart, Savion Jones, Josiah Stewart, who I think will be a nice linebacker at the next level, Q Robinson, Fadil Diggs, Jalen McLeod, Howard Cross, and Seth Coleman. I know they met with CJ West. Did I have him? I have him listed as a defensive lineman, but he's kind of this tweener, I guess, is what you would call him. So just based on who the Lions have met with and who's available, it would be Landon Jackson. That's probably who I would take, even though the Lions haven't met with him.
That would be the one player I would love, basically above all of them. I truly think that kid's going to be something special in the NFL one day.
So there's something that I've learned this year, and God, I hope it's not Jack Sawyer. Please, no, don't let it be Jack. Unless they're going to turn Jack Sawyer into an inside backer, which wouldn't make any sense because we already have Campbell. Please, not Jack Sawyer. I can't. I won't be able to handle 2 T-Rexes on one team. I wouldn't be able to handle it.
One's Michigan, one's Ohio State. So
right, and they both got T-Rex arms.
They'll equal out.
I forgot what I was saying. I learned something. So I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about prospects that had meetings. And here's the interesting thing about NFL teams and meeting with football players. The story is that when a team meets with a football player, initially, they're trying to get the feel goods, figure out who they are. They ask them their, very specific questions. But if they meet with them more than once and multiple times, that typically means that they have a lot more questions about that football player than answers. So even if they haven't met with somebody and it hasn't been reported, it doesn't mean that they don't like that player. They may already believe, based on the tape, that they know enough. So we can't really read into it too deep that when they meet with a player multiple times, that means that they were really high on that player. Based on the conversation that I had, it was because they have a lot more questions than answers, which is a good and a bad thing. It means that they have more questions about that football player, may not be the right football player. Could be a good thing, meaning that maybe they just want to know more. Maybe they want to learn more and see what you say the second, third, or fourth time, and see if it all lines up. Maybe, there's some character issues that came up. Maybe there's something that came up in the background report and they had more questions. So it could be anything, right? It could be anything. But it doesn't always mean that it's positive. And it doesn't always mean that the team is really high on that player. Just wanted to share that because the Lions have had multiple, visits with players. Multiple visits with the same player. All right, so number 3.
So my 3rd round pick with Aleem McNeil down to start the season, I'm going to take the big man from Georgia, Warren Brinson, defensive tackle from Georgia is my pick. And
this is in the 3rd round?
Yep.
What, pick 102?
Yep. So he is 6'5", 315 pounds. He's got a pretty good prospect grade. His numbers are pretty decent. He ran a 5-second 40-yard dash. He had 2 sacks as a defensive tackle this year, last year, 1 the year before, and 1 the year before. But this past year, he had 26 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And he played on that Georgia line with all them big boys. And I think he, more than anyone else that was left when I picked at 100, or what was it, 102? When I picked that 3rd round pick for the Lions, he was the absolute best player available of any position that was left when I looked.
So I got the yawns, man. Hold on. You can't tell I'm exhausted. I'm flat out exhausted. So there were some interesting football players that I came across. And when I was doing my when I was doing the numbers, right, putting all the numbers together, I want to throw this name at everybody and tell me if this name even rings a bell. And that is Jalen Travis. Have any of you guys heard of Jalen Travis?
Nope.
No? Anybody heard of Jalen Travis? Hurry up and Google it.
New one for me.
Hurry up and Google it. So, Jalen Travis, I've been watching his tape for the last 2 days. I can't get enough. And he's got some herky-jerkies going on at times, but this guy, offensive tackle, really surprised the hell out of me. For one, I didn't even know he was a prospect this year. And I'm doing the grade, right? I'm going through the sheet. Here, let me show you guys a sheet real quick, just so you see the kind of bull crap that I put myself through. This is my sheet, guys.
There's your self-torture device.
Yeah, this is what I do. This is my nerd time. Okay, this is my RAS score. It's my own formula. It's everything that I've built. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes and just keeps on going, right? But this guy, where is he at? Right here. Jalen Travis. This is my top tackles based on my board. Armand Bembu was number 1. Jalen Travis was number 2. He scored a 40. Donovan Jackson was number 3. Logan Brown, well, he was number 4 based on score, but he's definitely not number 4. Jonah, number 5. Carson Vincent, number 6. Calvin Banks, number 7. Anthony Belton, number 8. Now remember, the Lions met with Belton. They met with Jonah. They met with Donovan. I can't remember if they met with Conley, but Will Campbell, look at this. He was the worst one. In the top 10, he made it. He was number 10. So I wasn't as impressed, obviously, with Will Campbell. Still not impressed with Will Campbell. I'll never be impressed with Will Campbell, just simply because the arms don't do it for me. But the reason why I bring up a guy like Jalen Travis is because you just never know who the Lions are looking at. And I'm not saying that they're going to grab another 3rd round project. I know you guys are all hoping for a project in the 3rd round. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But if it were to happen, I would say that it's going to be Jalen Travis. Or it could end up being another William and Mary offensive tackle by the name of Charles Grant. Now, both Jalen Travis and Charles Grant really surprised me in their tape. Travis just, I mean, very, very quick first back pedal step, his first jab step. He cuts off these edge rushers. I mean, he cuts them off and forces them kind of go back to the inside. They kind of fake him to the inside to go back outside. His arms are just too big, right? He's just too big of, I mean, he's just massive man that is just keeping these guys in front of him. Get a chance to look at some of his highlights, and I think that you'll be impressed. He does have some things he has to work on. But I could see the Lions going offensive line here in the third. And if they did, it would either have to be a Jonas Savane, if that's how you say his last name, that slips, at the back end of round 2, slips into the third round. The Lions kind of creep up and snag him. Brad does his thing. He makes his trades. He moves forward. So it could be taking an offensive tackle. Jonah could move in it, be an offensive guard as well. Or you could see where the Lions could be looking at Stanford wide receiver Alec Iomanor in the third round. If he slips, it's expected right now that he's going to be taken in the second, but some boards have him in the third round. I see Pat Bryant, Brew McCoy, Isaac Tesla. Those guys are going to be in the 5th and 6th round. There's going to be a lot of UDFAs available, for wide receivers after the fact that are pretty good. The one guy that I really like on offense, I comped him as the next Christian McCaffrey, and that's Lan Larson out of UC Davis. Unfortunately, he's going to be available in the 7th round or priority free agent. But this guy is exactly like Christian McCaffrey to me. You've got to watch him. Same speed, 4.48 versus a 4.49. The guy's electric. I mean, he runs straight forward. He uses very good patience. Just a fun runner to watch. And I think that he's high on the Lions list. So I'd be looking for the Lions to grab Lan Larson this year. Rolling through the 3rd round here. So one tight end kind of sticks out for me, and that's Thomas Fidone. Could be a Thomas Fidone here for the Lions in the 3rd round. I don't think that we're looking at any cornerbacks or anything like that. Defensive line, I think we're good. Edge, we snagged one. Now, what happens if Josiah Stewart's available in the 3rd? Which is where I see him and Oluwafemi Oladejo going, is in the 3rd round. And I think that Josiah Stewart can be a really good will linebacker, at the next level. I think that's exactly where he's going to do well at. If the Lions triple down on defense, I wouldn't be surprised, simply because some of these guys just might be available. And I think that Josiah Stewart would be a great addition to this Lions roster as a linebacker. And he doubles as an edge rusher. So if things aren't working with Landon, right away, Josiah can step in too. But there's one other name that I love as a linebacker. I was pretty impressed with his tape. First, I want to say that I see Barrett Carter, Chris Paul. They're going to probably be in the 4th round, but Kobe King out of Penn State. I have him in the 3rd round, and that is my choice for the Lions at pick 102 without moving forward. Kobe King. What do you think about Kobe King?
I don't know much about him.
So, Kobe King breakdown. I don't know how many of you guys have watched this tape at all. Pretty good stuff. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that I would question, did he benefit from Abdul Carter, or did Abdul Carter benefit from Kobe King? That's the question I would like to see answered. And I think that it will get answered in Kobe's first year in the NFL. We're going to see who steps out. I'm not saying that Abdul Carter's not the guy. I'm just saying that sometimes the guy doesn't always work out and may not be the guy you thought he was. That's why those first few picks in the NFL they're tough. Now, Kobe King, Detroit bred. This guy born, raised in Detroit, went to Cass Tech, so he knows Detroit well. He's a perfect fit. He has elite run-stopping instincts. He's a downhill thumper, outstanding stack and shed ability, natural defensive. He's natural at orchestrating pre-snap adjustments, reliable tackler. Like, he tackles through. He doesn't tackle around or off to the side. He tackles through, goes through the middle of you. Kind of has that old school, you know, bring your lunch pail. You know, I got the nastiness inside it. Let's get to work. Kind of a day for this guy. Coverage skills could be a problem for him at the very beginning of his career, but I don't think it's going to last too long. At 6'1", 236 pounds, I think he's got better than average weight. So on the height, right? 9.5 inch hands, or 9.5 inch hands. 31 1/4 inch arms is a little bit of a problem for me, but he plays longer than that. His wingspan was good, so his ape index is what surprised me. Overall, he's a good looking dude, good looking linebacker. So Kobe King for me in the third. Who's your fourth round? Did you have a fourth round pick?
Yep. So my fourth choice is Malachi Moore, the safety from Alabama. After losing Efetu Malafanu to free agency, the Lions need depth at the position, and a run-stuffing safety in Moore is a great replacement. It also doesn't hurt that he played for Alabama, also known as Detroit University West.
Let's see here. You had Malachi who? Moore?
Malachi Moore.
I like Malachi Moore. Might be a little early in the fourth, but I like Malachi.
So I've quadrupled down on defense. I went 2 edges, a defensive tackle, and a safety.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm doing this one live, it's not obviously going to match up with what's going to be on Thursday night, but I got to save at least something here. I got to save something, and that'll be in the pre-draft show on Thursday. So we're going to plan on going live, probably do the morning show on Thursday, and then we're going to have the afternoon show, and then we're going to have the draft show. So it's going to be an all-day event. On Wednesday, we're going to be trying to interview a lot of different players, coaches, and things of that nature on Wednesday. I think that's our plan. Try to get as much in as we can. Unfortunately, that stuff won't be live. It'll be recorded for later, and we'll cut it up when we're done. Hold on here.
It's going to take a little bit of setup too, so you need a day for that.
So round 4, pick 130. Now, yeah, the Lions got to move forward. They have to. They have to move forward. Have to move forward.
See, now I don't think the Lions are going to take 7 players in this draft. I just don't think it's going to happen. I do think there's going to be trade ups. And I think these, this 6th and 2 7th round picks are going to be used for other things.
Yeah, what was the number that I threw at you the other day? Or was we were live when we were talking about it? I said that, don't be surprised if the Lions was at 5, get 5 draft picks this year.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Like I would be totally comfortable with 5. I think 4, like if the Lions moved up and all over the place, back, forward, whatever, and you got 4 really good football players and a couple of throw-ins later on, I think that's all you really need. It's going to be extremely difficult, I think, to make this roster if you're a 4th round, 5th round, 6th round pick, 7th round pick, UDFA. I mean, we found Brock Wright as a UDFA. I mean, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's just, I think it's just tough. I think this roster is loaded.
Oh, David Lyon says he's going to be at the draft on Thursday.
Nice. We'll have to catch up. Is he going? Ask him if he's going to the. I'm asking you to ask him.
Yeah,
Hey, David, are you going to the what was it called on Friday? The
Superfan Summit.
Superfan Summit.
I never did buy a ticket for that.
No, well, I'll pay at the door if I need to.
Yeah, I will too.
I got a credential that can show him instead.
Yeah.
Well, we're covering it for the podcast.
Yeah, we'll just go in there with our mics. Hey, what do you guys think?
So I was trying to look some up. Just give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Somebody else says, J-Rod says he likes Tate Ratledge. He was one I was also thinking of.
Oh, yeah, Tate. Did I finish going through my offensive line. So the Lions had multiple offensive linemen that they met with, right? So Spencer Brown out of Oklahoma State. And unfortunately, he didn't have... I'm a little bit concerned about some of the offensive line that they met with, but he didn't finish, all of his agility drills, all of his testing. But the parts that he did do, vertical and broad, were terrible. I mean, they were like terrible, terrible. He had elite arm length, which I liked, and he had good height. He had, really good height, average weight, below average hand size, but elite arm length, and he had an average 8 index. So that was good. But Eli Cox out of Kentucky, 31-inch arms, small ape, right? I mean, just not good scores. Dylan Fairchild, I really like Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. Charles Grant, I haven't watched enough tape on him. The little tiny bit that I have is good. Like, it's good. Compared when I was comparing him to what's his nuts? Where's he at? I always forget this guy's name. I was just talking about him. He's not high on my list. Jalen Travis. When I was comparing him and Charles Grant the other day, I was like, wow, where were these guys when I was in this process early? And then Josh Preeb out of U of M, another guy that didn't finish all of his agility, but he got some poor measurables in there. He's got small hands, just not elite skills, but these are guys that are probably, UDFAs anyway. They met with Jonah Savane. Dude's incredible all the way across the board. Had a elite ape index, elite 40. Really good in the short shuttle, all that good stuff. Those are a few that I was tracking, but my own line mock or comps. Tate Ratledge, that's who you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
He's number one out of all guards, true guards.
Wow.
But he's tied, though. He's tied with Dylan Fairchild. He's tied with Charles Grant. And then it goes Tyler Booker, Miles Frazier, then Gray Zabel, and then Wyatt Millum, another guy I believe the Lions met with, Wyatt Millum. So kind of funny that Gray Zabel was the sixth highest guard as far as measurables and agility score, right? Which is crazy to me because he was so good. But that just depends on where you're going to put him. Is he going to be a guard? Is he going to be a tackle? Or is he going to be a center? Personally, I think that Gray Zabel fits the Lions from a simplistic standpoint that he can step in to be a guard. He just moves different. He moves way different than anybody else that I've seen in the draft. The guy can get out and get up to the second level. He clears out in the zone run game. I mean, he does a really good job at just getting up there and getting onto his block and then moving off if it's a chip or whatever and getting up to the next level to clear the path. Exceptional job. Yeah, he's got short arms. So you make him a center, you make him a guard. Can't be a tackle, in my opinion. So nothing wrong with that. You just find out what these guys do well, and that's where you put them. All right, so number 4, look, at some point the Lions are going to have to make a play on the offensive side of the football. Honestly, by now they probably already did. I don't think that they're going to go 3 deep, with or even 4 deep with defense. If it's best player all day, according to Brad Holmes, then they could. If it's best value, which is my new term now that I'm going to be rolling with, probably not. But I think in the 4th round, you could take a gamble on that receiver that maybe you want to add to this roster. It would be a reach. I will say that. You could take that tight end. If you're really feeling, froggy and you want to leap, you could go after Thomas Fedone. He is someone that is mocked in the 3rd, could slip to the 4th. So he could be there for the Lions. So Thomas Fedone could be there for the Lions. And also Pat Bryant. Now, Pat Bryant I have in the 5th round. Brew McCoy I have in the 6th round. But I think that Pat Bryant right now makes a lot of sense to me in the 4th round. Reach up and get him. I don't care if it's a reach. The guy doesn't have the greatest RAS score because he didn't finish a lot of his testing. But he's got some game-changing ability. You could wait until the sixth round, the fifth round, and you could end up with Isaac Tesla or Brew McCoy. I really like Brew McCoy. I'd be okay with him too. But I think this is going to be an offensive football player in the fourth round, and that's where I believe it's not going to be a wide receiver, and it's going to be Charles Grant. I think he does slip to the fourth round, and the Lions find him. Offensive tackle, Charles Grant.
All right.
All right, who do you got in the fifth?
So the fifth, I have Miles Frazier from LSU. He's an offensive guard at 6'5.5" 317 pounds. This 3-year starter at guard in the SEC is the answer to the question of a backup at the guard position for the Detroit Lions.
Who was it?
Miles Frazier.
Oh, I like Miles.
Yep.
There was one thing, though, that I read on him that wasn't the greatest.
Let me see.
There's one thing.
He's got 32 and 3/4 inch arms.
Yeah, 32 and 3/4 inch. He's got 9-inch hands, 317 pounds. He's 6'6". 31-inch vert is crazy for his size. 108-inch broad it's good. It's borderline great.
Yeah, he did 27 on the bench press. So he's got some plates.
Hold on a sec. Let me go back to my O-line because Mr. Frazier, I don't think I had that number. Where is he? All right, so right guard out of LSU.
Yep.
And yeah, he had poor hand size. Graded out as a 29. So he is 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the fifth best guard right now based on my list. He did finish, 1 point ahead of Gray Zabel, but Gray Zabel by and large is the better player, obviously the better football player. Gray is number 1 in the guards, in my opinion. And then it's probably Booker right after him. Even though Tate Rowledge, Dylan Fairchild, they're going to give them all a run for their money. The thing that I love about this is when I grade all these out and then I'm going to tuck it away in the archives and pull it out next year and say, well, where did my grades stack? So if these guys played all year, where did they end up? Where did they end up in the PFF grades or whatever? Because that's going to tell me if this thing is even working or if I'm just wasting hundreds of hours of my life for no reason. So I like the pick. There was one thing I read on him that didn't sound so great, but everyone has negatives and positives. That's what makes this, fun at being young. I mean, you're not going to be great at everything at 21 years old. Got to have some things to improve upon. Otherwise life's going to be boring.
Yeah.
All right,
and
so,
you said he was what, the 5th or 6th guard on your list?
On my list. Yes.
Okay. So doesn't that sound pretty amazing at the 5th pick for the Lions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's just on my list though.
Yeah. But that's where I was ecstatic to see this kid. He's a 3-year starter. He played in the SEC, played for a big school. Big guy, tall, lanky. Didn't think his arms were T-Rex arms. So I thought, why not? Perfect guy for me in this position.
So he's actually the fourth guard on Draft Buzz's board.
Wow.
Now, overall offensive lineman, I'm not really sure where he is. Let me look over here.
And I don't know if the Lions have talked to him at all anywhere ever. Because I don't have the fun list.
Yeah, so Miles Frazier is 128. So you took him in the 5th?
He was my number 5. I don't know what pick that was.
It had to be well, we didn't have a 5th round pick.
No, so I think you got him in the 6th. Because then we got 2 7ths.
So yeah, you got him at 196 and he's rated at 128.
Yes.
So that would be a crazy slip. And as far as him meeting with the Lions, that answer would be no.
Okay.
He did not. All right, so for 6th, 7th, and 7th, the last 3 picks, Eric, just go ahead and tell us who you brought in. For me, it's like these are picks that are it is what it is, right? And I think that the Lions have done, pretty good job on defense so far. I took Lan Larson in the 7th. I took Brew McCoy in the 6th. And I had one more 7th, didn't I?
Yes, there's 2 7ths and a 6th.
Yeah, CJ Dupree.
So for me,
tight end out of Alabama.
Yeah. So for me in the 6th, like I said, it was Miles Frazier. And then you're going to love my first pick in the 7th round. Brew McCoy, wide receiver from Tennessee.
So we aligned on that one.
So the 6'2" wide receiver checked in at 215 pounds. He had an amazing junior season, then fell completely off the planet last season. And maybe with a little coaching from the Lions, he could catch on to this squad.
So I like the comment, it's like the last few picks is BPA, and I'm kind of different there. Who said that? Jay Cruzen. So I'm kind of different. Like for me, again, these are if I'm making the pick. I'm going to address BPA and BVA to start the day. But it's going to be needs at the end of the draft. That's how I would pick. Not projects, needs. What do I need? Where do we need to fill a hole? Where do we need more competition? But I still want a good football player. Like, I'm not just going to throw shots in the dark, right? I mean, they still have to add up. But I think that if you get 4 really good football players and you still have 4 or 5 picks or whatever you got for the draft, you can probably start to address a few needs. Brad will probably never admit that he took a need, and he absolutely has struck gold in the later rounds. So whatever he does, keep on doing it. For me, I'm just a little bit different. On Thursday, though, we'll go ahead and have all of this stuff tightened up for you. This is just a little bit of a preview for what's going to come. I'll try to pump out some schedules as we get going. Just so you know, Eric, I probably won't get there till like 6 p.m. tomorrow, 5 p.m.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
I got to get a few things done in the morning because I'm a little bit behind. But
me too. I haven't packed nothing.
Yeah, so, I still got to do all that.
J-Rod says it's crazy that the Lions haven't met with Tesla. I thought they did.
I thought they did too. And see, that's the weird thing is like, I have looked at so many different sites that say that they're tracking this, and then I started tracking it, and then I'm like, forget this because I couldn't keep up. And then I went through every tracker I could find, and it probably took me 5 hours. But I went to every tracker I could find, and I started copy paste, put them all together. And then I started grabbing, a few offensive linemen and then putting them over here. And then I compiled this list. Here, I'll just show you. The list.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So speaking of this list, my very last guy is 100% on your list.
Uh-oh.
Benjamin Urisic, tight end from Georgia. So Brad loves players they have had visits with, and this was Detroit's 30th and final top 30 visit for 2025.
So I took a tight end too. I took that Dupree out of Alabama.
Another Alabama tie.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I did. I didn't even get all the comps or all the RAD scores put in, but this is all of your offensive prospects. That's supposed to be it. See all these little lines in here? Those lines aren't supposed to be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what's screwing everything up. It won't let me do anything. Anyway, you can see where I got these guys ranked. Where they're going to go. Those where I think they're going to go. That's where I think. This Lan Larson, please do me a favor when we're done with this in a few minutes. Go watch his tape. If you haven't watched this guy, he is so damn exciting. And you'll see the Christian McCaffrey that I'm talking about.
If he's that explosive, why is he looking at 7th round or UDFA?
Because he's from UC Davis. That's why.
Oh, small school,
right?
Yeah, that's Division II, right?
Yeah. This CJ West. There was another one that I could have sworn that we met with. I thought that we met with Joshua Farmer, and Joshua Farmer's high on my list, really high on my list. I really like his work. So I just need, hopefully we can find the information before Thursday. But if we don't, we don't. If we do, we do. It's all a step in the right direction for next year. So you guys have been great. This is going to be fun this week. We've got a lot of work to do between now and Thursday, but we'll catch up with you guys. I'll keep posting. Check out the post on the YouTube, because that's where all of the information is going to be as far as schedules and what we're going to be planning. Once I get graphics together, I'll start pumping the graphics so that you guys can kind of have an idea of when we're going to be live and bringing you some information. So final 30 to you. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hey, I can't wait to see you guys from the draft. Gonna get there tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll be coming to you for you the next day. Tomorrow's travel day. And then Wednesday will be set up. And then Thursday, it's rock and roll time.
What's going on? What happened to all the Cruisin's messages?
I don't know. What happened with Jay Cruisin?
I don't know. Like, all his messages are getting...
Oh, he wrote something about... Yeah, he wrote something. Yeah.
I don't see it. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys here in, I don't know, less than 48 hours, probably tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe while I'm driving. God knows I do random stuff while I drive. So we'll see you guys later. Take care. Go and probably go to Detroit Lions, man. Get ready for the draft. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Who are the Lions going to take? Get your raffle tickets before they sell out. Got to hurry up. Get your raffle tickets. I'll buy me a coffee. We'll see you guys later.
Abdul Carter. Here he comes.
Yeah, right. We'll see. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah. 1 2 1 2.
Hey yo, AC.
1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.